So, so let's get going here. So the overall topic, as I said, these are kinds of problems that people have with things I think you should know. Certainly understanding the basics, levels of measurement, Likert type items, are they ordinal? Are they scale? How do we treat those? How do I select a test? What statistical test do I do to examine this? How do I set up my data? Okay, that's important. How do you log in? How do I use a data cleaning wizard inside of the Intellectus tool? Clinical versus statistical significance. You know, as I read through this, I'm like, why would you any statistical significance at all? I mean, the clinical significance is the impact we're having on those patients, okay, or on the organization, the impact. That's really, really important. We'll review some of the tests. I'll review the AI summary inside the tool, okay? And then we'll figure out how to download and edit results and final Q&A. So those are the 11 points I seek to get to, and I may get to some of them, all of them, more of them, but that's the goal. Okay, so before I get started, we should do a quick show of hands, right? How many faculty and students do we have here?
You can just enter that in the chat. You don't have to raise your hand.
Perfect. And then if you are in, and if you're actually doing, if you have data in the middle of collection. So, okay, great to see all the faculty here. Tons of faculty. Awesome. Almost exclusively faculty. Okay. Fantastic. Well, I'm going to want to hear from you. I'm going to want to hear your struggles. I'm going to hear your challenges with your own research and with students' research. We're going to get the basics out of the way. Here's basic number one. You have to know what level of measurement your variable is. I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I classify these as 3 levels of measurement: nominal, Latin for name only, they're just labels. Republican, Democrat, Independent, male, female. There's no hierarchy, there's no intervals. Ordinal, you have labels, small, medium, large, and they're in order. But the intervals aren't necessarily equal. Scale, and I'm using that interchangeably with ratio, continuous, interval. So these have labels, 1 degree, 2 degrees, 3 degrees. They're in order. 1 comes before 2, 2 before 3, and they're equally spaced out. Well, who cares about these levels of measurement? Why do I care about these levels of measurement? Well, because certain tests dictate that you have certain levels of measurement. Okay, that's why. So you have to know those levels of measurement. These are not fixed in stone, okay? I can have a scale variable like age, 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. I can make them ordinal, elementary school, middle school, high school, or I can make them nominal or just groups, old versus young, or over and under 55 or some darn thing. So things can be measured and taken in different ways, but the fact is you have to know what those are, okay? If you don't know what those are, you need to Google that, okay? Because that's really important. And the tool requires that you know that. These icons are just not pretty. These icons are designed to indicate to you or to cue you to the type of level of measurement that that variable requires or that that test requires. Another sticking point, and I get this, you know, constantly, not constantly, but a lot. If I have one item, several items, is it, it's a Likert type, don't agree, you know, disagree strongly, disagree, agree, strongly agree, 4-point item. Is that a scale or an ordinal level variable? Technically speaking, these things are ordinal, technically speaking. But how they're treated, literature says, and you can look at this website here, is that if If that Likert type item is a 5 or 7 point scale, you can treat it as continuous. You can do tests as if it was continuous, and it has little impact on the results of these things. Okay, so scale items are easier to evaluate. Means are easier than medians of some darn thing. So with regard to Likert type items, 5 to 7, treat as scale. Okay. The other point is, by the way, once you have several items, okay, once you have several items that are Likert type, you're in scale land, period. For example, I take a test in school, I get it correct or incorrect. That's a nominal level variable, right? Correct or incorrect, it's just a label. Got it right, got it wrong, okay? But once I start adding them, you got 92 of those correct, okay? Now you're in scale land. So for a few items, just have this kind of in your brain, 5 or 7 point of scale. Certainly as you start adding things or averaging things, you are absolutely in scale land. Test selection, huge problem for people. Huge problem. I don't know why it's a huge problem. I just think you don't have the experience with it, or students don't have the experience with it. And that if you looked at it for months or years, obviously it's going to be second nature. So I just think it's like lack of experience with it. Certainly in DNPs, it's, you're very quick with, one stats course, and then they take the scholarly project a year later, what do you do? So I just want to kind of lay out some principles I use to explain it and to get you from, I have this PICO question, which I'm going to talk about in a second. What test do I use? That's the question. So the quick recipe is, okay, the PICO question, study aim question, has to be in statistical language. I will talk about what I mean by statistical language. And you have to know the levels of measurement, which we just discussed. Okay, those two pieces of information, I want to see if there are differences between A and B, and A and B are scale. I'm doing a t-test, paired t-test. So those are the two, I'll say, criteria for that. Let's talk about PICO questions a little bit. I know that they're important, okay? Who am I studying? What is the intervention between some paired t-tests? What is the comparison? What is the outcome I'm measuring, the dependent variable? Okay, and what time frame am I looking at? At the end of the day, okay, to me, it's things like this. I call it PICO light, but because I want to get to the statistical test. Well, the population is really not helping me with that, right? Whether I'm studying elderly or children or whoever I'm studying, okay? So it's important, and I know it orients folks to what the whole study is about. Great. But when it comes to the statistical test, you want to get to the root of it. What's the effect of X on Y? Are there differences between A and B? Is there a relationship between R and Q? Okay, and things of this sort. So just know from the PICO question that get to the heart of that, okay? That's going to help you get to the statistical test. What do I mean by statistical language? By the way, I'm not sure that it's quite appropriate to say statistical language, but what I'm talking about are words like differences, words like relates to, words like predicts. I'm calling it statistical language because it helps me get to the kind of test that I got to figure out what to do. So that's why I'm calling it statistical language. Because if you don't have that, okay, then people get very confused. Okay. You have to speak about the interrelationship between or among variables, and you need some language. These three words, okay, differences, predicts, or relates, drives you to 30 different tests. Okay, 30. So they're really important. And people will know, typically, people will know what the heck you're talking about, all right? So, all right. Talk about setting up data. There's paired, I don't want to go there quite yet. I think I want to do, well, okay, so I don't have all the slides that I really thought I did. All right, so, but maybe I'm going to get into the decision tree to talk about this language, okay? That's what I need to do. Data setup, another confusing point for people. If I have paired data or one-shot data collected at one time, you're in this world here, which is every individual is on a row and all of the data is on a row, okay? And that's the only thing that you're doing. Other types of data is I have different groups of people, okay? So I have the pre-test group is going to be different than the post-test group, is different than the follow-up group. And you'll notice that the IDs here, for the pre-test, I have ID 1, 2, and 3. For the post-test, different people, different IDs, 4 and 5. Follow-up, different people, I have ID 6 and 7. Check this out. For the pre, post, and follow-up, it's all person 1, participant 1. The second participant, participant 2, all the same data. So if you have data that's connected by participant, it has to be on, it must be on the same row. Must be on the same row. Okay. Data cleaning wizard, I'll show you that in the tool itself. Make a note. Okay. And I guess these folks are putting are cleaning up that data. So I guess that's a representation there. Okay. All righty, moving along here. So another thing that's really important is, and really, I don't think it really gets much attention. I mean, everyone's doing quality improvement or, things of this sort, projects, but it's like, I gotta tell you, for lots of projects that I see, and I see lots of projects, hundreds of projects, there's very short shrift and very little conversation about clinical significance. But when I read this, I'm like, my gosh, we should be talking to for you and for all your students, they should have that eye towards that. Okay. What is actually making an impact? So let me go through some of the basics of this stuff. All right. DNPs, evidence-based practice, quality improvement projects, okay, should inquire about if an intervention is kind of working, all right? All right. So, so statistical significance versus clinical significance. Statistical significance is talking about probabilities, the probability that you find things by chance, okay? All right? That is one animal, and people want that, and science wants that, and journals want that. So you're not going to get away with, hey, guess what? It made a difference to Sally Jones and her, the other fall patients that they didn't fall. They don't care about that. So they do want to hear statistical significance. Okay. Clinical significance is about the meaningfulness of the thing. Okay. And the impact on patients. That's what we're talking about. And evidence-based practice and quality improvement, what is that improvement? The improvement is actually on patients or on processes. That's the improvement we're talking about. That's the impact we're talking about, okay? Impact on patient health, on well-being, and quality of care. But I would also say practical importance of the process, okay? That if you're making a process in the hospital or in a healthcare center better, then that's great. And that should be at least an equally important goal. Okay, so similarities, both are important for evaluating research. Okay, both are needed for evidence-based practice. Okay, statistical significance, confidence to apply an intervention. Clinical significance justifies the decision to implement that. Okay, we're impacting falls. We're impacting, intravenous infections. where impact, this kind of business, okay? Okay, and both should be considered. Now, I'm going to hammer this point a little bit because I think it's important, and it does not come up enough in what I say, and maybe it's talked about in classes, but when they get to me at the DNP projects or when faculty get to me, I rarely see this. We're all over on the left-hand side. Okay, so statistical versus clinical significance. This is based on math. This is based on judgment, okay? Clinical judgment. This is based on p-values. This is based on meaningfulness, okay, to the patient outcomes. Answer the question, is this a real phenomena, okay? This thing, does that phenomena actually make a darn bit of difference? The patients, that's what we're all doing here. That's the whole game here, okay? It doesn't matter if they, well, I'll show you in the next slide, okay? But it does not matter if things are statistically significant per se, unless it's meaningful, and I'll talk about that, okay? If you have large samples, tiny differences become significant, but it may not mean a darn bit of difference, okay? This requires meaningful change, okay? This is more objective, the more subjective. Three example cases. Statistically significant, but not clinically significant. Blood pressure reduces systolic blood pressure by 2 mmHgs, significant, but doesn't reduce events. Pain intervention, statistically improvement, only reduces the pain this much. The patient can't even feel the difference, okay? Clinically, but not statistically, reduces falls by 30%. Huge, awesome, particularly for that 30% that doesn't fall, right? Right, okay? Makes a huge impact, okay? But doesn't reach our probability level, okay? Palliative care dramatically improves quality of life, but doesn't show statistical significance. Both clinical and statistical. This is the golden significance, okay? Reduces 30-day readmission rates, okay, by 25% and is statistically significant. Perfect. Okay, applaud yourself. Educate, and by the way, we need that, okay? And you're not going to get paid for that, right, when they get readmitted. So there's financial costs, there's personal costs. Okay. And don't wait to be at a magnet hospital to do that, okay? You and your students can be making those clinically important things now, interventions now, and have your eyes open now, okay? And training them now. So that's the important part. Educational adventures increases med adherence by 40%. Great, okay? 40% med adherence. Think about that for cognitively impaired, mentally, psychologically impaired, schizophrenia, and these other folks that just, do not adhere to medicine, okay? That would be massive, okay? And reduces adverse effects. Look at both types of significance. Consider effect size. That's the importance of the difference, okay? Number needed to treat. This was a new concept to me. I didn't really know what that was, frankly, but how many patients need to be treated to get one more additional positive outcome? That's kind of a cool metric. NNT, I've never seen that in any study. I mean, it may be very common. So all the faculty, you can get on me and say, Jim, this is out there for many years. So, but for those that have not heard of it, like myself, I thought that was a very cool metric. And how did we get there? Minimally clinically important difference. Smallest changes become considered important. Again, these are nice additional things there, okay? Particularly when it comes to the, seems to me, to the clinically significant thing. 4 more patients with that intervention, I'm going to improve readmissions or whatever, or that intervention. So anyway, so I'm belaboring that a little bit, mostly because I really haven't seen it that much, and it rarely gets talked about. And I think, should be. And again, feel free to weigh in, everybody, to say, Jim, I've been listening to that for 20, 30 years. So happy to hear that. AI summary, I will get to that in the tool. And then now's our time to get logged in. So, pardon me. You can get to log into this website. While you're doing that, I will, and then click on Intellecta Statistics. I guess this is a shameless plug now. We also have a qualitative tool. We also have courseware available, and we'll soon have a lit review tool, a lit review app. All of you faculty doing research, okay, I'm going to blow your minds by having you have a lit review draft in 3 minutes, not 3 months. Lit review app. Okay. Yes, lit review, absolutely. At least to give you some structure and some scaffolding and some understanding of these articles. Okay. Yeah, that's going to be a game changer. As you can tell, we're tapping into things that are doing things in a rigorous but efficient manner, and we're leveraging AI and other kinds of templates to help you do that, which you'll see in a moment. So get logged in, and then we'll get to the Q&A. All right. So I said I was going to do data cleaning, AI summary. So I just want to do a quick run through. I hope folks have shared. I hope this is some of your stuff over here. Make sure I'm logged into the right place. Yes, I am. Okay. All right, and then go to Intellecta Statistics. Okay. So let me just do a quick run through basically of the tool, the data cleaning wizard, and so forth. So very often when data comes through Qualtrics or SurveyMonkey, okay, you may well have data like this, okay? First of all, 3 rows of headers, okay? Some variable name, the survey question, and maybe a description of what those levels mean, okay? And then you'll have some Likert type items. This happens to be on a 5-point scale and perhaps an open-ended. I like these open-ended things, by the way. It doesn't cost you anything that get a little bit more context that you can then triangulate or use with this. So, I invite you to ask a question, an open-ended question. So that's typically how data comes in. This is called the Rosenberg self-esteem data set. So I'll get there in a second. And to give you the quick run through, so you just kind of upload data here, okay? And select the data file. And for folks that have data, this is your time. So let's just do that a little bit more slowly. So for those that have data, open it up and go to upload data file, and then select the data file that you have. Okay. While you guys are doing that, I'm going to select the data file myself, which is the Rosenberg, which I don't have here. Okay, because I'm under the wrong one. Okay. So select the file. Once you select the file, upload the file. As soon as you upload your data, you're going to be thrown into this data cleaning wizard. If your data is clean, just exit out of there. No problem. Okay. If your data is not clean, go to next. Okay. Here, I want you to get rid of your headers. Okay. So you only have the variable name up top. Next, you're going to have a place, as you can see the impact of that. Now I only have 1 row of headers. Okay. You can now, let's just go to, you can edit variable names. If you wanted to change these names, you have an opportunity to change the names. Now, if you wind up with long names there, change that. Your tables are going to look terrible. Any descriptives, tables, tests, keep your name short, okay? I mean, I'm not crazy about all these underscores and so forth, but keep your name short, particularly if you have a very long name, okay? Like the question is there. You don't want that. Keep it short that you remember. This is just data cleaning of, sometimes even in, don't ask me how that happens exactly, but there's misspellings occur. Like you'll have disagree with 3Es and 2Es. You can merge these guys, okay, and we walk you through that. Or very common with like gender or sex is like male's got a capital M, male with a small m, particularly ethnicity. If you're typing in, okay, African American with a capital A's, all different kinds of things. This is one way to kind of quickly clean that data out. Okay, like or type items, very, very common. I happen to have a 5-point agreement scale here, not 4 or 5, okay. And I have data that looks like this, and I wanted to have numbers like this, so I can combine them together, okay? So I want all of these items, okay? All of these items to have numbers, okay? All right. So I'm going to apply changes. All right, I'm going to carry on here. Then I want to create a composite score. I can, average these guys here for the pretest. Okay, this is called a pretest. By the way, DNPs, 80% paired sample t-test. Maybe we'll Coxon if assumptions aren't met, but so knowing how to do a paired sample t-test, which I'm going to do in a moment, is going to matter. Okay, let's just say we're going to average these. This reverse coded item, sometimes look at your scoring sheets. Students and faculty, look at the scoring sheets. They may say, I believe like in the burnout subscale, the Matchlock burnout, there's reverse, I think that there's reverse items, okay? So basically we're flipping the numbers before we average, okay? You'll want to put in the whole range here. It's a 5-point scale. I want to average these guys and call it pretest. I have another subscale. I'm going to call these post tests. Post tests. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to sum them just so I can show you differences here. Okay. Go to next. And then it doesn't hurt to have a ID variable there. Particularly if you wind up finding out, well, you should have the ID before you get started here. If you're doing paper and pencil, you got to number all of those surveys, okay? Okay, so this is just validates levels of measurement of these things, okay? A few other things you may want to do, I'll just say 2 other things. One is, I'm not dealing with kids that are 1, 2, 3, and 4 years old. These are really levels. So it's probably an ordinal level variable. And in fact, this was 20 to 39. This is 40 to 59. This was 60 to 65. Okay. And this is 66 plus. Okay. By the way, I do notice as I get older that those levels change. Sometimes I'm starting at 40. So, or just to let you know that we're all biased. So that can affect your research. So just heads up about that. Those expectations, not only with the playful thing like making up labels, but heads up about your biases going into your research, I think is a real thing. The other thing, in addition to labeling those like that, is with that open-ended, we have a really cool thing called text classification. And what that means is it takes the open-ended, this is about transformational leadership, and it takes those responses. It's not a deep dive into qualitative, which I'm happy to talk about if you'd like at some point, but it buckets them into different groups. And you can describe those different groups with respect to the responses. Okay, that is the frequency percent of these things. You can let these interact with the other variables or relate these. Okay, so and then we can just jump to analyses. Always run descriptives. So here's my caveat. So I care about pre-test, post-test, I care about demographics, and I care about my bucketed thing. So always, well, here's my caveat. Always conduct descriptive statistics. Okay. All right. So you can see if you have a max of, you know, a max of 115, which is not possible. Okay. So the caveat is, and this is from experience, run the descriptives and then read the descriptives. Okay. So I know that this is very common to run descriptives as part of your study, but actually read it. Okay. Because sometimes I glance over it and I'm like, oop, didn't find that error, didn't see that error. So run it and read it. Okay. The analyses here, we really have a wide variety of these things. All the correlations, all the t-tests, all the ANOVAs, all the regressions, and I'm just going to run stuff. Correlations between pretest. Let's just do this between pretest and some of the I'm going to run silly analyses because I know they're correlated, but I just want to give you a flavor. Pearson correlation, put in variables, hit calculate. Assumptions are built in with scrollovers and tables in one of two ways, either in a triangle table or in a list table. But the cool thing, in addition to the APA tables, which would have taken you 10 minutes to write for sure, is that it not only identifies if there is a significant correlation, significant positive correlation, identifying it as a large effect size, that's two good things, but then you also have the interpretation. As pretest increases, K1 increases, okay? So talks about whether it's significant or not, the directionality of it, the effect size of it, and the interpretation of it. Paired t-tests. Select the test, put in the variables of interest. I know I'm going quickly. I should go back for a second. What is that? Okay, that means it has to be a scale variable. That's what that is. All right. So paired t-test, put the variables of interest in, video tutorials, and all of the data management, all of the plots, all of the tests. There's 80, okay, 3-minute videos to help you do that, okay? So paired t-test, what is the statistical language? Is there differences from pre to post? That's the statistical language. What is the levels of measurement? Scale, okay? Those two pieces of data help me get here. So for tests, the assumptions are built in. I didn't request that assumption. I didn't know what that assumption was. It identifies the assumption. It identifies the statistical test. It conducts the statistical test and interprets the statistical test in 3 seconds. It states whether there was significance or not, okay? All right, that is unlikely to have been happened by chance, okay? And we can see that the post-test is higher than the pre-test. We have an APA table. We have helpful scroll over with effect size. Why do we care about effect size? For the clinical significance part, the importance of that difference. Not only that it's significant here, the importance of that. And then a plot showing that. When assumptions are violated, the automatically runs a test that is looking at differences that has an assumption violation. The Wilcoxon is such a test. It's comparing these medians. Okay? And you can see that the medians are different between 3 and 14, and the significance there. ANOVAs, simple. Select the DV, it's got to be scale. Select the IV. These are all, let's just do it by by age group. Let's see if that runs. Assumptions built in. This happens to be graphical assumption. Scroll over to interpret. Assumption, scroll over to interpret. Outlier assumption. I thought there was a scroll over there. Nope. And then the results, guess what? It was significant. And it says so. Okay. This is for class, for students in class, it's showing them how to write or one way to write it. Okay. For DNP projects or journal articles or other research, again, it's drafting it for you. Okay. That APA table. Okay. Also, it has the post hoc tests built in. Okay. I don't know what happened here. So one was at the post test. Those 60 to 65, all right, had a smaller mean, or whatever this pretest score was, compared to those 66 and older. So it's all sitting there. Other common analyses, regressions, linear regressions. Want to predict some post-test using whatever, age and pretest. Notice the levels of measurement here, okay? All right, so as predictors, okay, predictor variables here, you can use any level of measurement. Okay. Videos. I should also note that there's options to be had here. I'm not going to get into it, but just highlight, there's options in the videos. These are your friends here. Okay. So again, assumptions built in, assumptions built in, assumptions built in. Not significant. If it was significant, by the way, it would have interpreted those beta coefficients. Okay. Pretty easy to interpret betas in linear, not so easy in binary. And let me exemplify that quickly. I want to predict sex from scores here. So let me just edit this and make this this may be too different, but we'll try it. Okay, we'll see what that looks like. That's gonna be a problem. Binary, and there's a lot of times in nursing program research that you want to predict some binary outcome. Okay, so binary logistic regression is that test. So I hit binary logistic. My outcome variable has to be binary. Okay. So I'm going to use Mel as a reference. By the way, notice that nominal. IVs, what did I use? Pretest, I think. So I'm using pretest to predict some binary outcome. Not significant. Did I not do the right? Oh, I used K3, pardon me. K3 pre. Somebody's probably texting me and telling me that. But it gives me an opportunity to show you how to edit the result, okay? So you click on that gear, click edit, and you can click out of that, and it was K3 pre. Edit analysis and make a new analysis. Okay, it is significant. So how do I interpret that odds ratio? That's the question here, okay? Not so easy. So it is significant, says so, okay? P-value is less than 0.01, great to know. Okay, so the effective K3 pre was not significant. That happens sometimes. So sometimes, I tried. Sometimes the model is significant, but that predictor is not. It happens. I think they call it suppression. Don't quote me on that. So, but if that predictor was significant, okay, K3 pre, then it would have interpreted that. Okay. Let me go to a few questions here, I think, right?
Yeah, we
Okay.
have some in the chat. We have one in the chat, and then people also want to see the qualitative tool.
Okay, got
And
it.
we have
Okay.
projects shared, so we have a lot to get to.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. So I want to just do the AI summary. One unique thing that is not in any other tool that I'm aware of, okay, is with quantitative, okay, that you can actually summarize all of your tests. I wouldn't necessarily put it in my results, but I think it could make for a nice beginning of a discussion section. So the analysis of leadership training effectiveness. So it's picking up leadership stuff. The paired t-test showed substantial improvement from pre to post. The non-parametric, the Wilcoxon, it's talking about the ANOVA revealed differences. See, it's highlighting that group difference. So it's picking up that post-hoc test. The regression, okay, so you get the idea here. You can just download that into it. Okay. What else do I want to do here? So I wanted to hit that. Let me answer a few questions and then jump back to stuff. I'm also trying to upload my Likert scale data.
I think
So
you can go to the one about the ANOVA test. So could ANOVA test be used for 3 surveys?
thank you. I got it.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you much. So could although if you want to, okay. So could ANOVA test be used for three surveys, pre-test, post-test, and educate? Yeah. I mean, I think I exemplified that earlier. Pre-test, post-test for 3 surveys. Yeah, I want to see the data. Trying to differentiate between ANOVAs and paired t-tests. So both the ANOVAs and the paired t-test share some similarities and differences. So the similarities is that they're both looking at differences. Differences across 2 time periods. We're in paired t-test land. Differences across same people. Differences across 3 2 or more time periods, or 3 or more time periods. Pre, post, follow up. ANOVA, repeated measures ANOVA. Okay. The t-test, the independent sample t-test, okay, is different groups, independent samples, independent groups. ANOVA is 3 different groups, like I just ran here for my ANOVA, right? You cannot be, in this lifetime anyway, you could not be in that group and in that group and in that group. So the one-way ANOVA is different groups. Independent sample t-test might just be these top 2 groups, okay, or something of that sort. Thank you. Haven't gotten data yet. Okay, when you get data, ship it along. All right, so let me peek at the. Well, I should jump into one. I should jump into one person's test, right? Did anybody send data? Thanks, Jen. Look at the smiley face with hard eyes.
If you shared your data, if you could just raise your hand and we'll unmute you.
Okay.
Okay. Catherine?
All right. Thank you for keeping me on track, Ms. Moran. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Hello, Catherine.
Hi, how are you?
Wonderful. Wonderful. So what's happening here? What did you share data?
I did.
Okay. And can I find it here? Is it here? Maybe I need to reboot it. Sorry. Refresh rather. Is this you?
Yes, that's me.
Okay. All right.
I don't know if this data will work well. I was trying to get my Likert scale one to upload because I thought it might work a little bit better, but
Let's see what you have. Okay, so easy breezy. So you have class participation.
yes, and then each of the Y's and no's are whether or not they answered that question in the
Right.
software.
Right. So so why would you have a 10 here?
That should be 100, not 10.
I agree with that. I agree with that. So how did you get to the 10? You hand counted these?
Yes, possibly. I
Each one
think
is
I
a
did,
10.
yes.
Okay, so nevertheless, you have what, so by the way, when you conduct descriptives on this, okay, when you could go to analyses and go to descriptives and you go to descriptives and you go to that final class participation, okay, and you hit calculate, you would have seen that min of 10 and said, wait a second, okay, something's wrong.
Yeah.
If you just look at the mean, you're like, okay, cool. Everyone's about 84% participation, makes some sense. But when you look at that min, okay, you're going to see a problem. So what is your research? What is your study aim here with this? Or you just want to describe this?
So I'm looking at this data a couple different ways. First, how students did across the semester. So it's implementing a program in order to keep their attention during pharmacology. So
Yeah.
both what types of questions kept their attention, how long a student by the identifier how their engagement trended over the semester, and how the class did as a whole.
Really, really important stuff. So there's a lot of formative assessment going on at the LMS level, at Nice Folks, at Nectar and other places, and other grants being just to address what you just spoke about. That's how important it is.
Yeah.
People want to know how to, and in pharmacology, you're teaching that. I remember that pharmacology class. It was a tough class. So
It is. I'm teaching BSN students, and we, of course, are transitioning from pretty traditional teaching to non-traditional just because our student has changed over the years.
what does that mean? It's that non-traditional.
Meaning, trying to go more into the active learning, engagement activities, trying to keep their focus instead of just being that sage on the stage.
Right. What does the yes mean here though? That means
The yes means they participated in that question. So in this activity,
okay.
there were 8 questions built into the PowerPoint. If it was a yes, they answered. If it was a no, they did not.
Okay. Okay, so that is so that's by question. So, well, here it seems like question type and engagement is kind of together. Am I reading it right or no?
So I think if you scroll down to the bottom, I had broken out what the type of question was, and
Yeah.
then on my data, I have it pulled apart even further, looking at the average participation for like multiple choice, select all, etc.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff you can do. Um, let me just do this for a second. Let me go over here. So a lot of stuff, let me just duplicate this just so I can mess around with it.
I think the part that I feel like as far as the average participation and the class participation, etc., that part seems pretty self-explanatory. I'm not sure how to establish the trend for in this first class versus the end class, how much their participation changed throughout the semester.
Well,
So I don't know if all of it uploaded, because on my end, I have about 6 classes worth of data.
So I would, no, I would probably stack that data. I'd make a
Okay.
copy here. I wouldn't worry about the student, but out of class, okay, and make all the
Okay.
one, okay. So I'd stack all that data, and just for the fun of it, okay. All right, so now I have class, and by the way, even though it's a number, I'm assigning now, it's nominal to me, okay? So just heads up there.
Okay.
And then and let's just for more fun of it, let's just say that and we know, well, these are all, I should have kept ID in there. So let's just let's just say that, in the beginning, really, they were not participating much at all. Oops, shoot, sorry. I don't know what I did there. Okay. So, let's assume, and then I'll get to Qualmel. Okay, so here, let's assume that they were not participating much at all here. So we'll see. Okay, let's just do more of these. What I'm thinking in my brain, or what I'm trying to work out in my brain is, and then, they're not participating here and here, this. Maybe they're, okay, and then here, maybe they're, that's fine. So maybe they're participating more as time goes on. By the way, there's a quick way of doing, there's a couple things I would do here. So let's just say that that's true, but, I would also, let's just say I have yes, no. You could do some quick things, recode to multiple. I can recode all of these variables. Okay, to scale, all right? And I can make yeses a 1, no 0, and make a new variable just for the moment. Now I have 1s and 0s. Now I can just create a quick composite score. Okay. I could have a total. Do I want total. Okay, for each participant, and sum them. I'm gonna sum all of these. Notice they're all scale. So out of 8 classes, I could have a 0 to 8. Okay. Now I can do a few things here. So 1, I can do descriptives. Okay. I can do descriptives, probably on the, not probably, on these, okay? Those yes, nos. And on that total. So I can see for each one of these, the percentages of yeses, okay? 28, 52, 96 going up. I could also see the mean, okay? There. I could also do that and do a quick cross tab by class. Okay, that'd be fun. Okay. Okay, so now by class, here's my yes, nos. Okay. Maybe 8 o'clock in the morning, they're not so hot on it. 4 o'clock,
Right.
get their brains going. Okay.
Right.
All right. And then also the mean participation, okay, of class, excuse me, mean participation over time. There's probably if you had, let's just, and I'm gonna move along, but I'm happy to talk to you. If you had a total 2, whatever by semester, total, spring, total, fall, total, whatever, summer. Okay. You can look at these things. Let's just do this. Oops. Let's just keep these low. Okay, over here, let's just do, they're rocking and rolling. A lot of participation going on here. I just want to, what I'm trying to do here is to not only do the tables, I think the plots can be really cool. And a profile plot could be really helpful by looking at these totals, okay? By perhaps class. This may not be the best, but you can see the different spring, fall, summer, by class
Yes.
time. So just to visually in one shot, grab this, okay, and see what's happening. Okay.
Yeah,
I
that's
would
exactly what I was looking for.
Oh, cool. All right. So, by the way, I don't want to give out all my secrets, but I would put that into Claude, okay? And I would say, show me a visualization of this data by that, okay? And it's going to give you examples of that. May not give you exactly what you need, but it's going to show you ideas in a way that, you really couldn't. All right.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Hope to see you. All right. So for those folks that wanted to see the qual, that's not the right website. Well, that is the website for the qual, which talks about the courses and so forth, but that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do the IQ tool, Intellectus qualitative tool, just to know well, I don't want to get personal here. Okay, so you can create projects. I'm going to use a sample project, okay, of transcripts only. And if you're teaching qual, use this. I mean, you can use your own data, but I have 4 interviews here, okay? And the cool part, all right, the cool part about this is that I can have inductive coding, which is basically saying all I'm doing is putting interviews in and excerpt the important narrative, A, collapse those important ones that are similar, okay, collapse those, and now develop a code name and code description, okay? This will save weeks of work. And, I hate to tell my stories, but kind of not. My qualitative analysis on my dissertation took 1 year. 1 year. 1 year, 4 of us. Okay, that's what it took to qualitatively, okay? This in 10 seconds found 26 codes and 58 excerpts. That's amazing. Not only does it do the excerpting, okay, for codes, adaptive challenges, blah, blah, blah. It also then does another layer by thematizing them. Out of those 26 codes, how many themes capture that? Well, they came up with 13. Okay, I can adjust this. I like smaller numbers of themes. Okay. All right. And now you have a theme, okay, in 2 seconds, 10 seconds. Okay, here's a theme name and theme description. Okay. And then here are the supporting excerpts that go with it. Okay. You need to read through those. I then jump to insights where I can now visualize, okay. I have my themes here. Where's my little thing here? I need it. I have my themes here. Okay. I have my participants over here. And here's the contribution color-coded of each participant to each theme and the number of excerpts in there. So this second theme has got 3 participants and interviewee, nurse and patient number 1 contributed 6 excerpts to it. I also, not only can you do a deep dive of the theme and the excerpts, okay? Here is the theme name. Here's the theme description. Here are the codes involved, and here are the supporting excerpts. I can also tie those themes, okay? I can tie those themes to those research questions or study aims. And what it's going to provide is if I can find it here. Okay, so I have my research question here. How do nurses balance the demands of time constraints and emotional investments while providing patient-centered care? Here is the one theme. This is a rationale for why that theme and research aim go together. for your consideration. You have these rationales, you have deep dives of themes, you have excerpted things. Again, it's a starting place. You can do things manually. All the faculty happy to give demonstrations to you, but particularly you and your colleagues, kind of show everyone in one group would be great. Any of the quant, any of the qual, and so forth. Okay, and then it all downloads to an editable Word doc. All right, and you can see what we've generated here. Okay. Okay. All right. Melissa, where do you want to go to?
I think there's a few questions. One was just to see the qualitative. If anyone has any other questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A or in the chat. Or if you've shared your project and we haven't gotten to you, you can raise your hand for that.
Here, let me see. Yeah, it is funny. Once you have the highlighter on, it does not show me the Q&A. So you're right. How do we write memos in the quantitative research? You may mean qualitative, in which case, if that's the case, I think that is the case. You could add memos manually here. Okay. You could also look at the some of the memos are auto tracked or logged, I'll say, over time. Okay. We could talk about memos. You got a lot about memos. Do we need to write about too many memos here? Okay. You have more questions about the memos than I have answers at the moment, but I'm happy to show you memo stuff. Is there an ability to triangulate qual and quant? Esther, you're speaking my language. Currently, no. We need to have that, okay? We don't have that. Again, not that I'm getting paid by Claude or Chat or Gemini. You know, put in your quant results, put in your qual results, ask for that triangulation at the moment. Other questions? Okay. All right. Yeah, and then so what I want to do now, I think, is just go to the final slide. If I can do that. Hang on here. So I'll just say that first, thank you all for attending and for your attention. Any student support, please contact Samantha at samantha@intellectustatistics.com. Ashley for any faculty support, courseware, demos, quant, qual, trials at ashley@intellectus360.com. Melissa, any kind of larger institutional plays at hand, any deans on the call, health centers on the call, hospitals on the call. Okay, Melissa can get with you there. Happy to give talks to faculty, students, hospitals. And you can contact Melissa at intellectus360.com. Our phone 888-383-6639. Some of the websites of interest. We should have a mailing list for those folks that want to learn about the lit review coming out. Consults, you can click on here. Faculty will get free help, students will be paid help. And I think that is the whole ball of wax here. Any other final thoughts, Melissa? Do I need to?
I think that's it. We'll send the recording to everyone with all of the contact info and other DNP resources, nurse resources. If you have questions, just reach out.
Thank you all so much for your attention. Thanks for coming. Please do share that recording with others as well. They don't know about this. They kind of sitting with SPSS or in vivo or, and they really don't know. So that there's other options available. So thank you all for your questions, and we'll see you next time.